She wasn't looking for trouble, just heading to her shift like every other morning. But within minutes, her ordinary walk turned into a nightmare that would test not only her strength, but the conscience of an entire community. What unfolded wasn't just about one woman's dignity. It revealed a painful truth too many choose to ignore. How did a simple day spiral into a battle for justice that no one saw coming? For Maya, mornings were always the same. Alarm at 6, coffee brewing, and the steady walk through the neighborhood streets to catch her bus. She was 24, a nursing assistant who worked long hours, often too tired to notice much beyond her routine. Neighbors knew her by name. She was the kind of person who smiled at everyone, even when exhaustion weighed heavy on her shoulders. To most, she was just another young woman chasing a better future. But beneath that quiet routine lived her determination. She had dreams of becoming a registered nurse, saving every dollar she could while helping support her younger brother at home. Life wasn't easy, but it was steady, predictable, almost safe. Or at least that's how it seemed. That morning felt no different than the others. The sun had barely risen, the streets were quiet, and Maya's steps echoed softly on the pavement. She clutched her lunch bag, her mind on the long shift ahead. But as she turned the corner, a sudden stillness settled around her. The hum of the city seemed to fade, replaced by the low growl of an idling engine. A car lingered just a little too long, its windows tinted, its presence heavy. Maya kept walking, unaware that her ordinary morning was about to shatter, and that every choice she made from this moment forward would be watched, judged, and tested in ways she never imagined. At first, Maya thought nothing of the car. Maybe someone waiting for a friend or checking their phone. She tightened her grip on her bag and kept moving, but the engine didn't fade behind her. It followed. Slow. Deliberate. The street that always felt familiar suddenly felt hostile. Each step echoed louder than the last. Her heart beat faster, but she told herself to stay calm. She was just a young woman walking to work. Nothing more. Nothing less. Then the flash of red and blue lit up the street. A patrol car swung in front of her, cutting her off. 2 officers stepped out, their boots hitting the pavement in unison. One of them shouted, "Stop right there!" His voice cracked through the quiet morning like a command meant for a criminal. Maya froze. "What's going on?" she managed, her voice barely steady. The taller officer stepped closer, his hand resting on the holster at his side. "Where are you headed?" he demanded. She blinked, confused. "To work, the hospital. I'm on the morning shift." But her explanation seemed to bounce off the silence. The second officer circled behind her, as if she were already guilty of something unspoken. Neighbors' curtains twitched, but no one stepped outside. That silence cut deeper than their stares. It told Maya she was on her own. "Bag!" the officer said sharply. Her fingers trembled as she handed it over. He tore through it, scattering her lunch and folded scrubs onto the ground. Maya's chest tightened with humiliation, but she forced herself to stay calm. She knew one wrong word could twist everything. The taller officer leaned in. "You fit the description," he muttered. Her breath caught. Description? Of who? Of what? She wanted to demand answers, but her instinct screamed, "Don't." Questions could sound like defiance. Defiance could become danger. The world slowed to a crawl. She could feel her pulse in her ears, the weight of every eye watching but saying nothing. And then, almost casually, the officer placed a hand on her arm. Not rough, not gentle, just enough to remind her she wasn't free to walk away. Maya's mind raced. Should she argue? Should she plead? Should she run? None of the options felt safe. None of them guaranteed she would see the end of this morning. And as she stood frozen on that street, one thought consumed her. If this was how it began, how far would they take it? The officer's grip on Maya's arm tightened. Her pulse raced, her body rigid with fear. She had done nothing, just walked to work, but the way his hand pinned her made her feel like prey caught in a trap. The second officer barked for her, to put her hands behind her back. Her breath caught. Handcuffs? For what? The metallic click rang out as cold steel snapped around her wrists. The sound sliced through the morning silence, louder than any siren. Maya's chest constricted as humiliation and terror fused into one. She wanted to scream, to protest, but her voice trembled inside her throat. Phones began to rise. A small crowd had gathered at the corner, their faces a mixture of concern, fear, and resignation. Some recorded silently, others whispered, but no one intervened. The weight of their eyes burned, not as comfort, but as witness to her unraveling dignity. The officer shoved her toward the patrol car, her bag and scrubs still scattered on the ground. Maya stumbled, her knees scraping the concrete, but no one moved to help her. The street she had walked 100 times before now felt like a stage, her suffering on display, her humanity on trial. Her mind raced with desperate questions. Would this end with a warning? A night in jail? Or worse? Would she become another name, another story, another statistic whispered through hashtags and headlines? The crowd grew, phones steady, voices low. The officers exchanged looks, sharp, calculating, like her fate had already been decided. And in that crushing moment, one thought consumed her. This wasn't just about her anymore. This was about every injustice endured in silence, every name lost to violence, every life judged before it was ever understood. As the door of the patrol car slammed shut behind her, Maya's eyes locked on the crowd. Tears welled, not just from fear, but from a burning question that pierced the air like thunder. Would anyone finally stand up? Or would this be the moment she disappeared into the system, unseen and unheard? Hours later, Maya was released without charges. No apology, no explanation. Just the echo of slammed doors and the sting of metal cuffs still pressed into her skin. She picked up her scattered belongings from the station floor, her scrubs wrinkled, her pride bruised beyond recognition. To the officers, it was routine. To Maya, it was life-altering. She returned home, but nothing felt the same. The walk to the bus stop was no longer familiar. It was haunted by flashing lights and the weight of unwanted eyes. The sense of safety she once carried was gone, replaced by the gnawing awareness that her skin could make her a suspect at any moment. Her story didn't make headlines. It wasn't plastered across television screens. It lived in whispers, in the shaky recordings saved on neighbors' phones, in the silence of those who saw but stayed quiet. Yet for Maya, the impact was lasting. Every shift at the hospital, every glance from a stranger, every late-night walk reminded her that dignity could be stripped away in seconds. And that's the reality. Hers is not an isolated story. It's the story of countless others who face suspicion before compassion, judgment before justice, fear before freedom. It's a reminder that racism doesn't always scream. It seeps quietly into ordinary mornings, leaving scars that rarely heal. So, the question isn't whether Maya's story matters. The question is, how many more Mayas will it take before we demand change? Because silence protects no one. Indifference saves no one. And until voices rise, stories like hers will keep repeating, unnoticed by some, unforgettable to those who live them. The stories on this channel are works of fiction, created solely for entertainment. We believe in equality, fairness, and progress in society, and our goal is to share meaningful stories that inspire reflection and positive change. Any similarities to real people, events, or organizations are purely coincidental. These stories are not based on actual individuals or events and do not carry political or religious implications.